Is it possible that man with his fallen human nature can bring about peace in our world? Winston Churchill said no. Winston Churchill said that our morals are lagging far behind our technological advance. Just think what's happened in 100 years. 100 years ago, we didn't even have radio, and certainly no television. And we barely had a few automobiles. And no one had seen any, at least in the part of the world I lived in. We didn't have airplanes. The first airplane flew in this century, 1903 at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, and it just flew a few yards. And all of this has happened so quickly. And our human nature has not changed. We're still human beings capable of any kind of crime. And we're capable of war. And so the time has come for us to look up some of those passages in the Bible that have to do with the future of our world. And we ask ourselves, is there any hope? A person can live a lifetime without sex. A person can possibly live 75 days without food. I read about a man in a hunger strike in Britain that lived 70 days without food. And it's possible to live about 10 days without water. It's possible to live maybe 6 minutes without air or oxygen. But it's almost impossible, we're told, by sociologists and psychologists and psychiatrists and clergy to live without hope. And one of the great needs in our world today is hope. And many young people have lost hope, and that's why many of them are rebelling and turning to drugs and turning to other things. They see no hope as they look into the future. We read about the greenhouse ecology, and they talk about Armageddon, they talk about global genocide, they talk about the end of the world. And we've seen almost daily in the press and on radio, or television, some reference to it. A New York philosopher says, as never before, America needs a philosophy of hope and confidence. The former Prime Minister of Canada, making a speech recently, said, billions of people are living today without hope. And he said, hope is the greatest need of our generation. They're tempted to give up. They opt out. And so we tend to hide from reality and responsibility, as many people today are searching for hope. So the zodiac signs are being studied as never before. Spiritual mediums are prospering. Computers are being used on a massive scale to predict the future. We hear a lot about astrology. And the best-selling author Herb Cohen says the most widespread feeling of these days is one of hopelessness and helplessness. And what oxygen is to the lungs, such is hope to the meaning of life. In our passage that I want to read now, there are 4 things that I want you to see. They all begin with a V. Luke, the 21st chapter, beginning at verse 25. And there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them for fear, and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken. And then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up with hope, and lift up your heads, for your redemption draws near. The 4 things that beginning with V that I want you to see. First, there's a view of the world today. When these things begin to come to pass. What things? Things that we've been just talking about. The disciples asked him a question. They said in Matthew 24, when shall these things be? What shall be the sign of your coming, and what will be the end? What will be the sign of the end of the world? Jesus said, don't speculate. He said, don't speculate about the end. There is going to be an end to the world system of evil, but the kingdom of God is going to ultimately triumph. God is not going to retreat. God is going to control the whole thing before it's over, and the kingdom of God will prevail. And Jesus' answer in Matthew 24 to these questions took 94 verses. He gave a whole scenario Jesus said one of the factors would be fear.